Welcome back to Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia, and this week on the podcast, we are going to discuss what is happening with New York Community Bank and why this is important for all of us to pay attention to. Most wealthy people have the majority of their net worth in investments versus having it in cash. This is because they are working to protect their money from inflation. And of course, to make more money, the most efficient way is to put your money to work versus exchanging your time for money. However, there is one investor that is famous for keeping an abundance in cash, and that is Warren Buffett. I have watched Warren Buffett in multiple interviews defending his decision to hold on to cash by stating that he wants to be prepared for an economic crisis that the United States may face. It's clear to me that he recognizes his unique financial management skills and that they cannot be replicated by others. He has chosen to use his cash as a safeguard against a potential crisis, effectively protecting the country with his own bank account. I want us to take a moment to process that. This man knows how to build wealth for himself, and in the process, he is thinking about the country he lives in. Warren Buffett is known for his philanthropy. There's no secret there. He has made a pledge to give the majority of his wealth away. In 2023, Warren Buffett donated more than $870 million in stock to 4 charitable foundations. So let's think about that for a minute. He didn't just inject these foundations with a lump sum of cash. He actually gave them stock, something that is going to continue to increase. And this kind of reflects the episode in the week before last, where we talked about the wealthy demanding for the government to charge them higher taxes because they were afraid of democracy collapsing. They understand that if the wealth divide gets any bigger, that is the actual threat to their riches. So what does all of this have to do with New York Community Bank? Well, I think that we've been talking about it since the start of this podcast. In the podcast where we talk about the wealthy being proud to pay on taxes, I mentioned that I feel like I'm getting a picture of what is taking place. And I hate to sound like doomsday and negative, but I also think it is extremely important for us to stay realistic and understand the economic situation that is taking place around us, because brown and Black people are disproportionately affected. In previous episodes last year, we discussed bank failures kicking off with Silicon Valley Bank. We also covered the downgrades that America as a country received on their credit score. Both of these episodes are worth a listen. We're going to link those episodes in the show notes so that all of this can come together, because this is a saga that started in the beginning of 2023. Last week, New York Community Bank disclosed that they are under pressure for exposure to commercial real estate. Commercial real estate has been losing its value at a rapid rate. And so if a bank owns a ton of commercial real estate, then the bank is also losing its value. You might not live in New York. You might not have money in this bank. You might have never even heard about this bank prior to this conversation. But let me tell you why this is important for us to pay attention to, because it is not just affecting this bank and everyone that has money in this bank. It is a canary in the coal mine for where we are as a country. Before we get into that, let's take a quick break. Investees, we launched a Patreon. Myself and Cosmic Standard, we are self-funding this project. We believe in disseminating this type of information. We believe in the knowledge and the education that this type of information can bring to our families and our communities. And so we have decided to self-fund. If you want to help us fund this project, head over to patreon.com/investees, where you can start contributing $3 a month. You'll receive benefits like receiving this podcast early and commercial free. And we're back. The collapse of banks can cause a ripple effect, which could lead to the collapse of the entire country. This was evident when the bank in Silicon Valley began to fail and people rushed to withdraw their money. Soon after that took place, we started to see the weakness in other regional banks. The United States government did something they have never done before. They rushed in quickly and they gave everyone back their money. Typically, anyone that has less than $250,000 in their account are not insured by the FDIC. However, in this case, an exception was made by the government and everyone was guaranteed their money back. Why? Because the last thing you want to do is instill fear in the banking system. If we were all to pull out our money today, this would be an instant collapse of the United States of America. As soon as smaller regional banks began reporting their weaknesses, bigger banks stepped in to try and help. The bigger bank took some of the smaller banks. Why? Because this is a ripple effect. You need to make sure you protect the little guys so that eventually the bigger ones won't be affected. This is again mirroring what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Protecting those that are the most vulnerable is essentially risk mitigation for protecting themselves. When New York Community Bank disclosed this weakness, the stock immediately began crashing and dropped 74%. Aside from the loss in value that they were facing from their investments in commercial real estate, now they were facing the loss in value of the company itself. Immediately, the former ex-Treasurer Secretary of the United States, Steven Mnuchin, stepped in to inject the company with $1 billion. We are watching private equity now step in to try and save the United States of America. When I first heard the reason Warren Buffett defended his high cash position, I thought he was an egotistical maniac. But now it makes perfect sense. I know that all of this sounds extremely negative, and yeah, it is. And I think it's serious, and I think we need to pay attention. But what I also think is that these types of cracks need to happen. They need to take place. It is obvious that we are being propped up. It is obvious that something needs to change. And things will not change until something collapses, until something happens. That is when we will actually be forced to step up and do something. And we're actually watching that take place as we speak. I think this is positive. I think it's important to see the weaknesses in the United States. And there is more than enough money in the United States of America to fix this and make it right. You're listening to Investees. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Investees is a Cosmic Standard and In Lose We Trust production. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.